NFL free agency is around the corner, and today we're going to predict where the top 10 names land. As always, get in the comment section below, leave your thoughts, and while you're down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. We don't sell you anything, and we don't run any ads. It's just purely talking some ball. Amir, welcome to the show. Of course, you were recently over on the NBA show this week, which, if you guys missed it, very fun episode. We had Bakari on the show, got to do some drafting, which is something we don't often do. But hey, you're back this week for your second show. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm excited. This is interesting. Obviously, these are all predictions, but I'm excited to talk about, our methods and reasoning as to why we think these teams are going to pick up these guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Right now, I picked who I believed were the top 10 free agents outside of offensive line because Tyler Linderbaum is a very good, of course, interior offensive lineman. I think he's going back to the Ravens, whether if they franchise tag him or whatever. He would have been on this list, but I think it's a foregone conclusion. He's going back to Baltimore. But let's start with the most important position. And Amir, this quarterback free agency class, I think is deeper than people think. You have Kyler Murray. You have a name we'll talk about in a moment. You have Anthony Richardson on the market. Aaron Rodgers is still out there. You have Kirk Cousins. There's other names that I'm not getting to right now, but Geno Smith, if you still believe in him. I think we're going to see a lot of these quarterbacks go to a lot of places we don't necessarily expect. Let's starting with one of my favorite players to generally watch in Kyler Murray. I am going to make this prediction based on where I think he'll go, but I don't want him to go here. I'm going to say the New York Jets. When I look at Aaron Glenn, this team was abysmal on both sides of the football last season, whether if it was injury or just really poor performance. This team needs a spark. They need a change, especially at the quarterback position. And Aaron Glenn is coaching for his job this season. I think you bring in Kyler Murray, you have the money to pay him, whether if it's a short-term or a longer-term deal, and he can instantly add a different element and elevate this offense. Even if you don't see him as a top 10 quarterback, he is miles better than what you've had in recent years. So again, I don't really like this for him, but Aaron Glenn gets desperate. I think they throw a big chunk of money at Kyler Murray once he hits the market. Amir, where do you believe Kyler Murray will go in just a few weeks?
So for me, it's interesting, right? I think he still wants to compete. He wants to win. And looking at the landscape of the league, there's not many teams that are willing to pay him that will also in a win now position. And so I just said Minnesota. I think
I
Minnesota,
like that.
Minnesota, they're dead last in terms of cap space, but it happens every single year. Teams aren't a negative when, like, really it doesn't exist. Teams find a way to restructure contracts, free up space. And, I just think, they'll find a way to somewhat free up some space for him. And this is a win-now situation. I think if he tries to go anywhere else, he's dumb. There's no other team where, realistically, they can win right now, they can compete, and where he doesn't have to waste, more years of him getting banged up and beat up. If he goes to New York, he'll play. He'll be able to just stat pad and
Yeah.
put up numbers. But it's like realistically, if I was him, the only team that's really available right now, I would try to make a hardcore push for a team like Minnesota that's literally set up and that has the pieces to compete right away.
I absolutely agree with you because I'm not necessarily a JJ McCarthy franchise quarterback believer. I think that would be perfect for him, especially to learn from Kevin O'Connell. But Amir, I want to throw this out there for you. With these Jets, just talking hypotheticals, let's say the Jets get a Ruben Bain, and then they pair that with a Mekhi Lemon or a Carnell Tate down the board because they too have two very high first round picks. Do you think that with the Kyler Murray and those two talented rookies, plus whatever they can do with the rest of their money, could they sneakily make some noise in this division next year? I'm not saying win it, but just be competitive, like, an 8, 9, 10 win football team.
I think they can show some strides. The issue that I have is I'm just not the biggest fan of Aaron Glenn, and I've said
I'm
this
not either.
even a few years ago when he was in Detroit. It's a lot of times defensively where you kind of just question him and his methodology. And I think he's a great motivator. He's a great players coach, but he runs too much quarters. He's super has this super aggressive style of defense, and it's like his style of defense and play calling, it doesn't necessarily fit his personnel. And we saw that this past year, right? The Jets, even last year, when they were absolutely abysmal, defensively, you were able to look and appreciate them as a defense, and they're at least serviceable. This year, they're bottom five in the league. They become the first team in history to not record a single interception. And I think it's going to be the same issues this year, where I mean, even like week 1, for example, you have an old Aaron Rodgers and an abysmal Steelers offense. Just put up 35 points on them and absolutely torch them at home. And I think it's going to be a continuous issue this year. And also, too, I don't know if I trust his ability to draft. But I would
Yeah.
say, if they're to draft like a Ruben Bain, right? I think he has a pretty high ceiling. And if you're to draft a receiver later on down the board, I think that'll benefit them offensively.
Because
But
they
I
still
just
have
think they
Brees
have,
Hall. They would still be bringing
yeah,
back Garrett Wilson, of course. So you got some weapons there, is all I'm saying.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the talent is there. I think they just have a lot of issues
Yeah.
with, you know,
Yeah, starts at the top. Starts at the top with Aaron Glenn, and if I don't really believe in Aaron Glenn, it's hard to believe in the upside of the football team for next season. But Kyler Murray, hopefully this doesn't happen. I am predicting the Jets. Amir is being a little bit more optimistic for the future of Kyler Murray. He would land there in Minnesota, and they'll figure out the cap later. Malik Willis, one of the most intriguing and fun guys that are out there on the market this offseason. Plays the quarterback position, of course, started his career in Tennessee, ended up in Green Bay. And I'll say this. Now, you like to poke some jokes, Amir, because Jordan Love is one of my guys. I've been with Jordan Love for a long time. But every single year, Jordan Love seems to go down for a 2 to 4 week stretch. And in the last 2 seasons, Malik Willis has stepped in and kept that team afloat. And they've also won some big time games. Before we get into our predictions, Amir, what have you seen from Malik Willis to be, I guess, impressed by him in recent years?
well, first of all, his dynamic ability. Some guys when they get thrown, in games, right? Especially a team like Green Bay where they've been heavily reliant on Josh Jacobs, and that's
Yeah.
been their biggest downfall, in my opinion. And the biggest downfall since Rodgers has been them not having any star power offensively. And I think that's the biggest issue. That's the reason why I show some grace towards Jordan Love because he's been in some really bad situations where he's going out there with Jaden Reed, Wicks, Matthew Golden, and it's like these guys are solid, but it's like you don't really have many, much to work with, and
Yeah.
it's like and then Malik Willis steps in and he plays good in games where the running game is practically non-existent. I mean, he played great against Chicago, almost won that game. Played great against Baltimore, almost won that game, and the run game was non-existent in both those games and he was dominating with his arms, his legs, and I think he just brings that perfect mold for a quarterback in today's game. And two, it's like obviously he's not 6'5" or whatever or 6'4" as a quarterback, but he plays in the pocket like he's taller.
I'll ask you this, and it's a two-parter. One, what do you think the upside of a Malik Willis is? Let's say he lands in a perfect situation. Where do you think can he be a league average quarterback? Because when he's had opportunities to start early in his career, it wasn't necessarily pretty. Of course, he's shown flashes as a backup, but the pressure is not as high as it would be if you're paid to be the guy of a franchise. So the first question is, what do you think his ceiling is? And two, would you, as a GM, would you rather pay a Malik Willis or trade for an Anthony Richardson? Because it's a similar mold of quarterback, similar archetype. One just was drafted a lot higher.
I think for Malik Willis, his ceiling, I think his absolute ceiling, it'd be like a substitute Pro Bowl guy. I'm not gonna go and say all pro or like a guarantee, top of the league, Pro Bowl guy, but I could definitely see a situation where he's like right outside that threshold of being a Pro Bowler. And to be completely honest, I would rather land towards Malik Willis, um,
Wow.
just for the simple fact that I just think when you start quarterbacks early on in their career and you ruin their confidence, ruin their development, it takes a toll on them. And it's like for Anthony Richardson, I brought it up before the show. I mean, he's a dude where if you've been watching him since high school, he's been a developmental piece since high school. And it's like then the Colts, they draft him, start him right away, which I don't think he should have got drafted that high in the first place.
Yeah.
Obviously, based off ceiling, you just throw him out there. And it's like, I think that's ruined his development, man. Like, he doesn't look confident and there's some issues too outside of his game, like him just subbing himself out because he's tired. It's almost like he looks defeated and he can't stay healthy. And Malik Willis, the only thing I'll say about him that's concerning is, I mean, a report came out that said he wants like 30 mil a year.
Yeah.
That's
Not gonna happen.
extremely
It's not
risky.
gonna happen.
Right. I mean, like I don't see that happening, but I'd rather land on Malik Willis. He's sat for longer. He's developed under Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur developed Jordan Love, and so I will feel more confident about Malik Willis being just a solid, game manager.
That last point there actually kind of swings my opinion, but I'm a Gators fan. Originally, when Richardson came out, we knew he needed another year, but he had a lot of execs, and I'm sure his agent wanted a bigger bag, so they pushed him to go into the league. And of
Yeah.
course, it has not been exactly what was imagined. I still would lean toward Anthony Richardson because he's going to be a lot cheaper taking a shot on him and him to turn his career around than Malik Willis being some top end $30 million a
Yeah,
season kind of
that's
a guy.
crazy. That's crazy.
But what taking Richardson over him?
No, no, it's crazy. I mean, he's asking for 30 mil, and this dude hasn't even started that long at all.
Yeah. You got to be careful, man. Not every quarterback can have that Sam Darnold turnaround where, you were a backup and the league kind of gave up on them, and then magically they find the right spot and they're back to being a topper, above average quarterback. We got to be careful with that, man. More often than not, these quarterbacks that are projected to be something often come back to bite the team. I'm going to keep this simple. I think this is the most bet heavy favorite spot for him to land. It's the Miami Dolphins. They're going to get rid of Tua this offseason. They brought in Jeff Hafley, the former defensive coordinator of the Green Bay Packers. And another thing, we heard a lot of the time throughout the season that Malik Willis found success against this Packers defense in practice. So this defensive coordinator that's taken over knows he can trust this guy. I'm sure Hafley's going to bring over some, if not most, of that offense from LaFleur. So Malik Willis is going to be comfortable. He's going to be able to start, get a true shot to be a number one quarterback in the league. And that's really that. Amir, where would you like to see Malik Willis go? And I guess where's your top projection if it's different?
So my original pick was Miami, and I swayed the direction towards Arizona. I would love to see him go to Arizona. I think what they did last year, I think Michael Wilson is underrated. Trey McBride
Yes.
is obviously an elite tight end. I think even a dude like Greg Dortch, for him to be a wide receiver three, I even think he's solid. I mean, I think Benson in the backfield is solid. Marvin
Love Benson.
Harrison, he can still, be decent. And like, I would love to see him here, but I'm gonna go back to my original pick. I think he ends up in Miami. And I sat and thought about it. I just think Arizona. If I'm them, I think it would be a smarter choice to just stick with Brissett. He still has one more year. He played good enough last year to make the games competitive and to make the team entertaining. I would say stick with Brissett this year. Me and you talked about it. They have it's going to be an absolutely loaded quarterback class next year. Guys like Dante Moore, Sellers, Lagway,
Arch Manning.
Rayola, right, Arch Manning, guys like that. And so if I'm Arizona, I will stick with Brissett, win some games, give the franchise hope. And I think Manilo's goes to Miami. You brought it up, Hafley, former coach. He's probably absolutely torched him in practice countless times.
Yeah.
He definitely wants to go ahead and get a quarterback and win right away. And so I think getting Malik Willis, I think he'll end up there. And he's also from down south. So
Yeah. I didn't even know that, but I guess that makes a lot of sense. That is it for the quarterbacks. Of course, let us know where you want to see some of the top end guys go. Guys like Kirk Cousins, Anthony Richardson. Where would you like to see them end up? And hey, Aaron Rodgers as well. Looks like he's going to come back. We'll keep this one quick and to the point, Amir. Reports are coming out this morning that Seattle is going to be franchise tagging Ken Walker. If there is a change of heart, if there's any kind of rhyme or reason why he is not brought back to the Seattle Seahawks, which we both project him to go back to, Amir, where would you like to see him go? Because originally I had the Houston Texans. I said the Texans need a running back. Woody Marks is not a number one guy. And then they go out and trade for David Montgomery. So that kind of wiped that option off the table. For Ken Walker, is there a place you would like to see him go if Seattle, for some rhyme or reason, decides not to bring back the Super Bowl MVP?
I think a good place for him would be like Denver. I
I
think
like it.
Denver will be.
Lead back in a Sean
Yeah.
Payton offense.
Yeah, I mean
It could be
seriously.
like a Pierre Thomas. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
mean, yeah, I mean seriously. Or if let's say if
Like a
let's say if
Mark Ingram.
I mean, literally just like that. I mean, or let's say if ATN ends up signing somewhere else, I go see like Jacksonville. I would love them to see there. I mean, with that in that Liam Cohen offense, that offense would be nuts with freaking Kenneth Walker. That would be
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. At the receiver position, and let's circle back to the newly minted head coaches around the league, and that was pun intended because Jesse Minter of the Baltimore Ravens has taken over. It's a new era, And the biggest objective for him is to make Lamar's job as easy as possible, whether if you load this defense up or you add to this offense. I think if Jesse Minter wants to get over with the fans, if he wants to make a huge first impression with the fans and the organization and the city, I think the best way to do that is to finally do something that the previous regime couldn't do. Give Lamar a true number one option. Now, I kind of ruined it there, right? I kind of went straight to the Ravens, but I think Tyreek Hill, coming off of this big time injury, he might need some time to rest up and recover. So whether if he returns week one, whether if it's week four, if you can bring in a Tyreek Hill and if he can find his, get back and find a rhythm by, let's say, week eight, this could be one of the most dangerous offenses in the NFL. You have Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, probably bringing back Isaiah Likely, and you have Tyreek Hill. That offense is going to be electric. And one of these years, you got to think Lamar Jackson can put it all together and go out there and win. Amir, we've seen just this past year alone, we've seen the impact of first year head coaches and what they can do to an organization. Jesse Minter, if he can get aggressive and bring in some pieces to help Lamar, that the Ravens could be that team next year that just dominates from start to finish. Your thoughts? Obviously, we both like the Ravens.
I completely agree. And Tyreek Hill, one thing he loves money, and he loves to compete, simultaneously. And this is perfect. Baltimore, they have some spending money. I think for Jesse Minter, you already have a lot of talent on defense. I mean, like you seriously already have guys in depth and guys that you can work off of to boost the defense up. And it's plenty of guys in the draft that you can go and get. It's good
Yeah.
linebackers, it's good DBs you can go ahead and target. And I think they got to focus offensively. How can we make Lamar's job easier? The story of Lamar, obviously, he's been a bit disappointing in his playoff history so far. Ravens fans get pissed when the truth is out there about that. But you could also point at his team and his roster and say they never had any like elite dynamic threat. And Tyreek Hill coming off of a major knee injury, I mean, still just having a guy that's one. I mean, I doubt he'll ask for too much money, but you could still put him on like a 2 year contract,
Yeah.
and he'll still be a lot better than a league average receiver. He'd still be great and fit in perfect.
I think if Tyreek Hill can go back to 80% of what he was, in his first year in Miami, or you just really 80% of what we just saw, he's still what, a top 30 wide receiver in the game, top 25,
Mhm.
right? And that might even be way too low. But Tyreek Hill is still a Hall of Fame level talent. I'm not saying he's going to make it, but he's definitely had an incredible career. Amir, the obvious pick, I think, right now is Kansas City. For some rhyme or reason, I just can't see Tyreek Hill going back to that well. Your thoughts on Tyreek Hill maybe going back to Mahomes? Because we know, even though he was away from Kansas City, every time they talked about Mahomes, I mean, his face lit up. It was like he was talking about, like, a higher power. What are your thoughts about him going back to Kansas City?
I agree, and honestly too, I mean, like they have three slot guys on the roster already. Like their receiving core is already like it's dominant when in terms of like intermediate and short routes, and it's like they need more like outside vertical threats. I mean, like Rasheed Rice, he dominates in the slot.
We don't, I
Xavier
mean, is he
Worthy
going to play next
also.
year? We don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like weird, and it's like Kansas City. I mean, they need a run game, they need an O line. They have a lot more things they got to really focus on, and it's like I just don't see them really paying Tyreek Hill a lot of money to come back unless Tyreek Hill is like I just want to win. I want to go back home. I mean, he's already made a bunch of money, but I mean, he has 10 kids. I'm sure he wants to make money and pay off
Yes.
child support. So
That's actually a great point. I didn't really factor in the kids and the home life. Another team that has a new head coach and they have a quarterback just like the Ravens that they've been stuck. They haven't been able to get over the hump. And now with this new regime, Joe Brady, a widely known offensive mind, he has the chance to leave a great first impression on these Buffalo fans. And in order to do that, just like Jesse Minter with Baltimore, he can add a number one wide receiver for Josh Allen. And we both like the Buffalo Bills in this case. I'll say this. I think Mike Evans is a Tampa Bay Buccaneer until he's not, in my mind. As of right now, if I had to bet, I think he ends up back in Tampa Bay. But you brought it up on the show last week. Mike Evans, the things that he has said that he wants. He wants a quarterback that he can trust, and he wants to compete at a high level. What place can he do that on the opposite side of the conference so he doesn't have to play Tampa Bay? It's the Buffalo Bills. It makes too much sense on paper. Josh Allen finally gets a number one, and Mike Evans. doesn't have to be this, 100 plus reception wide receiver. He doesn't have to put a whole lot of a workload on his body, because Josh Allen is Josh Allen and this team is a run first offense. Amir, I think just getting a player like this might make Buffalo the favorites in the AFC next season. Your thoughts?
I agree with everything you just said, and you brought up a great point. If we had the bet right now, we would say Tampa Bay. I think what he solidified his legacy in there. I mean, he literally is a first ballot Hall of Famer,
Yes.
and it's crazy. We mentioned it a while ago. It's crazy he's a first ballot Hall of Famer without ever being like a bona fide top three receiver in the league. I don't
Yeah.
think, and
Yeah.
it's like it's consistency. It's literally just dedication to him being healthy, being available. And the past 2 years, she's dealt with some minor injuries, but it's like you just brought it up. He said he wants a reliable OC and pass game and quarterback. He wants to compete for a ring. And it's like, if I'm him, it's no way in hell I'm going to go back to Tampa Bay and deal with the defense. That's been
Right.
that terrible. And you saw him that game against Atlanta where he stormed off the field and he was like, I mean, it's like a 4th and 20. You guys can't get a stop. And that summed up their whole entire season. The defense was terrible.
Yeah.
And so I think Buffalo will be perfect for him. Or even I could see like New England. I mean, New England, this. I mean, they have like 40 mil in cap space. I could
Yeah.
also see them also throwing a bag at him.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Vrabel, one of the best recruiters in the game today, so that wouldn't shock me at all. Mike Evans, though, he's probably going back to Tampa Bay. Let's be
Yeah,
completely honest. I would like to see him go elsewhere. That would also, honestly, Amir, it would feel like Klay Thompson leaving the Warriors, right? He was never the best player on the
yeah.
team, but he's a legend in the city, and you don't ever want to see those guys go. Let's go to defense. Cover the top five guys on that side of the ball that are on the market this offseason. And we'll start with Trey Hendrickson. And I'm going back to the well. I was wrong last year with this exact same prediction, and I'm going to make it again. Trey Hendrickson wants to compete. He wants a lot of money. Point blank, period. And I think a team on the NFC side of of the conferences that has a lot of money. They have a really good quarterback, in my opinion, and they want to get back on the top of the mountain. They need an edge rusher. Dan Quinn loves these aggressive edge rushers that can produce, produce, produce. And Dan Quinn gets a guy that can make an instant impact. They're gonna have to pay a little bit up for him, but again, he's been in this market to find an elite edge for some time now. I think Trey Hendrickson is exactly that. So I'm gonna say Washington for the second year in a row goes out there and gets the edge rusher from Cincinnati. Amir, your thoughts on where you want to see Hendrickson go?
So, for Hendrickson, I chose the Chargers, but just for the simple
I like
reason
it.
that the Chargers, I mean, they need more pass rushers. Adafe is obviously a free agent. I think he had like 8 sacks last year. He's going to be gone more than likely. And so, I mean, you have like $85 million in cap space. Why not just pay, a Trey Hendrickson, even if it's for like 2 years or whatever? And I think it just puts them in a better position to compete. I also love the Commanders. You brought that up, and I didn't even think about the Commanders until I looked at the slides. And with Dan Quinn, this would also be perfect. I think Dan Quinn fits in that mold for his kind of play style. I mean, Trey Hendrickson, he's a guy that plays with a high motor. He doesn't take any plays off. And I think having a motivator like Dan Quinn would be perfect for him. I would just want to see him in Chargers. Like to be completely honest, I want to see Herbert get an actual chance, and I want to see a competent roster around him. I do.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Commanders fit, obviously, for 2 years now. But the Chargers would be interesting, and they just released Mekhi Becton this morning. So an already terrible offensive line just got a lot worse. But that also frees up an extra $10 million in cap space. So that could be money to use towards this defense and/or rebuilding this entire offensive front outside of the tackles. Devin Lloyd, one of the two linebackers that we want to cover in today's video. He's coming off of a bit of a down year statistically, but I would say that his impact could be viewed as his best season yet. He was the leader of the best run defense in the NFL, one of the best defenses in general in the NFL last season for the Jacksonville Jags that were like 14-4, including the playoffs last season. But outside of last year, he had 113 or more tackles in each of his first three seasons. Elite status in that regard. And like I mentioned, he's the green dot. He's the play caller, the leader of this elite defense last year. I can't see why that point blank period. I can't see why they would let him go. So I have him going back to Jacksonville. Amir, your thoughts?
I also do, and I agree with you. They would be absolutely foolish to not bring him back. I mean, that run defense on that 9 game win streak they went on or whatever, it was so elite. I mean, it completely neutralized offenses. And it's like they still had moments last season where they give up a lot of points, and that was all on the secondary. That was all on secondary play. Up front in the front seven, him leading them and literally shutting down the run game. I mean, they completely shut down Buffalo's run game, and they just lost to Josh Allen just beating him with his arm.
Yeah,
And it's
Josh
like,
Allen.
I mean, seriously, and it's not much you can do when you play Josh Allen round one. But it's like I think if they would have played Houston, they would have beat them. I think if they would have played even like Denver, they would have gave Denver some trouble. And you saw them smoke Denver in the regular season. Like I think they were in perfect position last year defensively to really make a push for the Super Bowl. And we kept bringing up those hypothetical matchups, and I brought it up Seattle and Jacksonville. And that was very well a possibility
Yes.
just based off how that run defense was playing.
Yeah, it's the domino effect. I think if you get past the Josh Allen at home, all of a sudden, what they were the 3 seed, they would have went to New England, and if you could beat New England, then you only have to worry about Jarrett Stidham, right? And then
Yeah.
Jacksonville's in the Super Bowl, right? So it would be closing off that game, not choking that game away to Buffalo, and then just beating Drake May, which we saw a dominant defense. They can bother the Patriots offense and really shut down their offense entirely. But Devin Lloyd back to Jacksonville, I think makes a lot of sense for both sides. They are going to be back and probably better than ever. Now, this one I thought I was being a bit sneaky, but with Demario Davis at 37 years old, Amir, he's aging like fine wine. He's having literally coming off his best season in his like 15-year career at 36 years old, now 37. And I thought I was being sneaky in the fact that the team I have him going to has a former coach of his. They just lost their middle linebacker because they had to cut him for cap reasons. And you're going to bringing in potentially a top five linebacker in the game, middle linebacker, and he wants to compete at a high level, and he gets to do that on a team that is destined to make a deep run next year in the Chicago Bears. But Amir was on the same playing field as myself. He said, "Okay, Dennis Smith, or excuse me, yeah, Dennis Smith. If I'm no Dennis Allen, that's what it is. Dennis Allen, former defensive coordinator for Demario Davis, when he was picked up from the New Orleans Saints, and they just reunite here in Chicago. For he fills a big void, and this team looks like they can go out there and maybe be that shocking team next year. Your thoughts on Demario Davis, Amir? It's crazy that he is aging like fine wine.
Yeah, I mean, last year he was dominant on his defense, and the Saints team last year was not bad. And it's like,
No,
me, you brought it up. I mean, on defense, they were good. I mean, they were obviously, around middle of the pack, but they still show flashes, and he was like the lead point of this. And obviously, he doesn't want to be in New Orleans anymore, with the reports that came out, and I don't
that
blame
Tay
him.
Adams show.
And I mean, yeah, and like at first I was kind of thinking, maybe he'll go back to New York, kind of finish off his career. But realistically, who wants to go to New York, right? He
Yeah,
wants to compete. He wants to finally get a ring and actually compete for something. And I mean, I was thinking at first, like, why would he want to go to Chicago? And I'm like, Dennis Allen. It makes the most sense. And also, too, I just think the way Chicago played last year, with their mindset, with their motor and intensity, and they need help on defense bad. They need guys in the front seven.
yes.
I think going after Demario Davis, even if it's on like a 1 or 2 year contract, I think it'd be perfect.
Yeah, look, I talk about it on the draft channel a lot, but this is the division that loves to run the football. I have mocked Jeremiah Love to the Minnesota Vikings in recent mock drafts. You have Jahmyr Gibbs in this division. You have Josh Jacobs in this division. These are three teams that are not only they have great backs, but they want to run the football as much as humanly possible. Bringing in Demario Davis is that tone setter in the middle of the defense. He's a veteran. And Amir, I was looking at his career. He went from the Jets to the Browns to the Saints. He got to compete for like 1 year with Drew Brees, and that was Drew
Yeah.
Brees like way past his prime and after a ton of surgeries. So he hasn't had a chance to really be on a great team. And at 37, like you mentioned, I think there's no way he just takes a big bag and goes to a bad team. I think he wants to go compete, even if it's on a cheaper deal. So Chicago is the pick for him. Now we go to Amir's favorite corner in the league, Tariq Woolen.
Hey, 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 hey.
Yeah, I'm just playing. Super Bowl champion now. Almost cost this team the NFC title game there with
Yeah.
his antics late there against the Rams. But Tariq Woolen's hitting the market, and he no doubt is coming off his best season in the NFL. And with Seattle, and they have like a ton of players hitting the market. They already are going to use their franchise tag on Kenneth Walker. So there's guys like Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, some other guys in the front seven that are hitting the market. They got to pay those guys. So I think Tariq Woolen might be the odd man out, especially because the Seattle Seahawks are linked to a ton of corners in this upcoming draft class. I think it makes too much sense. for Tariq Woolen to go back home, to go to a team that needs a true cornerback one because they haven't had it it's last year and really a year and a half. And he's going to go to a team that has a lot of money because Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Trey Smith, all of the biggest three contracts have been reconstructed. Dallas looks to be serious this year, and I hate to say that because that seems to be the narrative every year. It seems to be like they're aggressive. They're serious this year about getting as much talent as possible. Tariq Woolen's from Texas. He goes back home, gets a bag, and gets to be a key contributor on a team that looks to be competitive in a wide open division there in the NFC East next season. Your thoughts, Amir, on where you would like to see Tariq Woolen go?
So Tariq, he's one of my favorite DBs in the league. That NFC title game had me hot. But I agree with you. I think with Seattle, he hasn't really hit a leap. Really, he's kind of been stagnant since his first year, that breakout year. And also too, it's like Mike McDonald is such a great coach, and they already have a lot of depth. And it's so much talent in this upcoming draft. They can just draft the corner realistically.
Yes.
And and I just think he's going to be the eye man out. He's probably going to ask for a bunch of money, and I'm going to towards a team where they've been trying to target corners in the draft nonstop, but I think they're fed up. They want first of all length at the cornerback position, and they also don't want to rely on rookie corners to come in and play right away. And so I think he goes to Detroit. If I'm Kelvin Shepard, if I'm Dan Campbell, I'm looking at the landscape of our roster in the secondary, and they've had some issues, right? Terrion, he has ideal corner length, but it's nothing out of the world, and he's been struggling. DJ Reed, Amik Robertson, they're way too small, and they've been struggling. And they need length in the secondary. They need guys that can come in and be difference makers. And I think Tariq will end up in Detroit.
I want to throw some rapid fire options out there for you, and I just want to let you. I want your opinion on these potential spots. Um, Kansas City, they just traded away Trent McDuffie. They need a cornerback one. They have a little bit of money, not a ton of money. Uh, do you think Tariq Woolen would take a bit of a pay cut to go to Kansas City?
I think he would, honestly. I mean, if he doesn't, I think he's dumb.
Yeah.
I think he's dumb.
Philadelphia. They're going to lose
Yeah,
Adoree Jackson this offseason. They have a little bit of money as well as losing guys like Dallas Goddard. So, long story short, they're going to have a little bit of money there in Philadelphia. Is Tariq Woolen on the table for you to add to that loaded secondary?
yeah, actually, Philly was on my list too. It was Detroit, Philly, Dallas, and also Cincy.
Yeah. You also had the LA Rams.
Yeah, the
But of
Rams. Yeah,
course, right before the show, Trent McDuffie got shipped from Kansas City to LA. Chris Shula is not only staying, but he's trying to get aggressive there in probably his last year in LA with the Rams. Tariq Woolen, though, again, intriguing prospect. I'm excited to see where he goes, as well as the rest of those Seattle Seahawks that are coming off a Super Bowl and they're on the market. Finally, we got to show some love to these special teamers out there. And usually, I wouldn't highlight this position as a top 10 player, but Amir, I'm gonna be honest. This dude is
yeah.
coming off of not just one, but two of the greatest kicker seasons of all time. And he's pretty much automatic inside 45, 50 yards. Though he is 30 years old, he's hitting the market and he's asking for $10 million a season. Call me crazy, but I think this
And
is part of the reason why they reconstructed deals. I think he's worth that 10 million. Your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's not enough. And it's like, I think when you're talking about in terms of who's the best player in the league, and you're talking about in terms of just individual position and dominance, I mean, if you value that aspect of ranking the best players in the league, then by definition, he's the best player in the league in terms of his position and how much the gap is between him and everyone else, like every other kicker in the league. And it's like, it gets to a point where when you can get to the 50-yard line and be confident about kicking field goals, that's insane. I mean, that changes the entire dynamic of 2 minute situations of
Yeah.
your team. I mean, if you get to the 45 and it's automatic, you have to pay this guy. You have to.
Yeah. Look, Brandon Aubrey won me my fantasy championship just a few months ago. But I the only caveat, the only thing I'll say with the kicker position is that we just randomly, like Justin Tucker,
Yeah.
Brandon Aubrey's
Yeah.
in that realm of how far the gap is from one to two for how Justin Tucker was for so many years. But we saw even a Hall of Fame level kicker like Justin Tucker just randomly fell off one season. He randomly just started to fall off that, super peak of a mountain that he was on. And he came back to being a human esque kicker. So the only thing with kickers, sure, pay him 10, 11, 12 million dollars a season, but I want to give Brandon Aubrey more than like a 2 year contract. So that's the only thing as a GM I would have issues with because you don't want to pay him a 4 year deal and then you got to eat most of that contract if Brandon Aubrey has an injury or he just completely falls off the face of the planet. Would you give Aubrey a 4 year deal given his position?
I wouldn't, and I agree with you. It's one of those things where you rarely see a kicker just like progressively get worse. They either have like an All Pro or like Pro Bowl season, and they just fall off a cliff where next season they're missing game winners or missing extra points, and that's extremely concerning. I mean, we saw with Bucker and Justin Tucker recently. I mean, these two dudes were the best in the league, and they just completely just fell off a cliff out of nowhere. I think a 2 year deal would be perfect. I mean, even if you're gonna up it to like 15 mil. I mean, I don't even think that's much of a stretch, but I say 2 years max. I agree with you.
Yeah. Again, Dallas just freed up a ton of money reconstructing their top three contracts. So they have the money to make some splashes. And long story short, we both have Brandon Aubrey going back to Dallas. But Amir, I'll ask you this. In the Todd Bunkin era, the Browns need now four more offensive linemen, three more offensive linemen. Would you sacrifice one of those offensive linemen to get a Brandon Aubrey? Not to say that he would come here, but
Mhm.
like I would say I would rather get a Brandon Aubrey than go out there and overpay for an offensive guard.
Hey, I mean it's guaranteed points every game. So hey,
Yeah, Browns won't get shut out, that's for sure.
yeah,
I wonder if it's a big difference for him though, kicking outside compared to inside, because if he comes to the
that is
Browns,
true.
he's going to be kicking in the nasty snow and slush and whatever else Mother Nature has here in Cleveland. Amir, that's it, man. NFL free agency starts this week, I believe, if not next. So we wanted to get this video out there and give our 2 cents. Your thoughts on NFL free agency and how crazy it could be in the coming weeks?
I think this could be a crazy free agency. You brought it up, and I can't really envision Kyler or Tua and any other jerseys. And I'm trying to like picture it or
Yeah,
imagine
I
like,
can't. Not
I mean,
especially
like
Tua. I can't.
yeah, I mean, I can't picture Tua in any other uniform, and it's like, who's willing to pay, Tua a bunch of money, or like a Geno Smith? Like, where's Geno gonna go?
Uh, San Fran? Maybe he. No, they got Mac Jones still.
Yeah, I mean, I
Maybe
don't
he
know.
takes. Maybe he. Pete Carroll's not in the league anymore. I was gonna say he's gonna follow Pete Carroll wherever he goes again. Yeah, Geno's interesting because Geno obviously had a great stretch there at the end of his Seattle career and even the beginning of was this the first year with Las Vegas?
Yep,
So I mean, he's coming off his best year and his worst year in back-to-back years. So I mean, what version are you going to get from him going forward is definitely the question you're going to have to ask. But Geno can end up in like Carolina. I don't know if Andy Dalton's going to come back for a year, but go there and mentor Bryce Young. I don't know. I'm just throwing out. I think he's never going to get another starting job. Is what I'm getting at here.
yeah.
I gotta ask you because he might be the most talented arm that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. What do you think the future is for Aaron Rodgers? Do you think it's retirement? Do you think it is going back to Pittsburgh for one more season? Where would you like to see Aaron Rodgers in 2026? Because, look, he's 41 years old and obviously he wants to compete for a title.
I think he 1,000% is going to stay in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
I thought the way they ended the season, it was positive for him. I don't think they're going to be contenders anytime soon, personally. And I think him advocating for Mike McCarthy. I mean, quite literally, it was a report that was like, oh, Aaron Rodgers says the only way he's not going to retire is if they get Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
And then
And
the
then they
day
get him,
later,
and then now he's unsure about his future.
exactly. And I think it's all just, off season nonsense, off season drama. I think he'll 1,000% be in Pittsburgh again this year.
I would just rather see him retire. I'm
Me
not gonna
too.
say Will Howard is like some franchise changer, but I think he's a lot better. Like I think I would take Will Howard right now over Malik Willis to be my quarterback. As crazy as that might sound, because we haven't seen Will Howard be a starting quarterback, um, I think he has more potential than a Malik Willis. So, like, if Rodgers retires, of course, we would get to see a full snapshot of what Will Howard could be at the NFL level. But that's it. We'll see you guys next week, of course, for some free agency winners and losers.